Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming to another session of the Creative Industries Festival at Oxford Brookes. Thanks, everyone who invited and everyone who's joining the session, especially our speakers. We have an amazing team of speakers with wonderful projects around the world. So let me briefly introduce you to them. I'm Sylvia. I'm a student, PhD student at Oxford Brookes. My research is about how to diversify audiences in UK arts institutions. So I'm working mostly with museums and galleries, but I have a lot of interest in cinema and in community because I worked in film festivals and I work in films and in documentaries. So I'm really happy to be here with you all in this panel of discussion today and to find out more about our speakers. We have here Yuli Rodrigues, that with Emiliano Scotto. Hi, Yuli. They represent Festival Cine de Barrio. So Festival Cine de Barrio, it's an initiative that seeks to decentralize the cinematographic offer in Ciudad de Mexico, and it promotes audiovisual creations of the periphery and local communities. We have Takumã Kuikuro, is an international and award-winning filmmaker, member of the Kuikuro people in Alto Xingú Indigenous Village in Brazil. So Takumã, he created the first Indigenous Film and Culture Festival in Brasília, capital of Brazil, and he's here for the second year of the Indigenous Film Festival here in the UK, but actually he's in London. I'm talking to you from Oxford, Yuli from Mexico. Takumã is in London at the moment. And then you have João Paca. João is an artist working in image, photography and moving image. He created the Festival Video Rio, who does doing projections around the buildings in the city of Rio de Janeiro. And you also have Trish Cashen and Geron Swann from Poppadom Pictures and Film Oxford. So to start with, I would like to invite Yuli to do an introduction. If you could speak a little bit about like how you came out with the idea of the festival. How was the festival born?
First of all, thank you very much, Daniela and Sylvia, who invited us. We just met them. We met Daniela and Judy a few months ago here in Mexico, and we had the chance to show them a little bit of what FESIVA is. And we were very glad to, since that moment, having a very exciting collaboration with them and with Oxford Brookes University. We have been very, very happy to be able to have these conversations, all these conversations, and we are very happy to be here. Well, I'll tell you a little bit. I am Yuli Rodrigues. I am executive director of FESIVA, the Festival de Cine de Barrio. It is translated maybe something like the neighborhood film festival. We are a festival which began in 2019. And it started because we had we were doing these workshops to teach people in the fringe of Mexico City, especially in a municipality called Ciudad Nezahualcóyotl, which is the most populated municipality in Mexico with over 2 million people, with a lot of problems of violence and social inequality, and we started like trying to do some workshops with the community, with the local community, to teach them how to do film. And then we wanted to do like a little show of some Mexican films. And during one of the projections, we had this conversation with one local filmmaker who told us that it was very nice that we were trying to bring films to the local community, but also that it was necessary that we show his films, like the local films. And that was kind of the start of this project, because we realized that conventional film festivals never show the films that are made in local communities, because they usually don't fit with the quality standards for a film festival. But we have this conviction that film, film has always been like something that only a few people can do, and mostly people with some privileges that are not available for most of Mexican population. And so that's kind of how we started. We wanted to be a project, a film festival that shows films from local communities, and films where local communities can identify themselves with the films, with the festival itself. Me and Emiliano, who couldn't be able to be here, but Emiliano is the artistic director of the festival. We have never done a film festival before. I am a film producer, and he's a writer and philosopher, actually. And we didn't know how to do a film festival, but we had been close to some festivals, and we were totally convinced that we didn't want to be a conventional film festival of red carpets and celebrities and all of that. We wanted to bring film to the people, to make film available for all the people in Mexico City's fringe, because, well, even though Mexico City is the most, maybe the richest city in Mexico, the biggest one, but it has one of the most unequal societies, and a lot of people, lots of people lives in the fringe, and there are a lot of problems of lack of cultural options, violence, poverty, and all of that kind of problems. So these communities in the fringe of Mexico City, and always trying to redefine what the word barrio meant. Barrio, well, the exact translation maybe is the neighborhood, But what in Mexico means barrio is something that is not always looked with good eyes, is not always read with a positive intention. It is sometimes, or most of the time, seen as a place or an identity with all these problems of the fringe, of the peripheria, of poverty, violence, and drug cartels and things like that, gangs. But what barrio also means is a lot of things for the people who live there. We have lived in the barrio, in the fringe, in the periphery of Mexico City, and we know that barrio is also an identity that brings a lot of other cultural ways and other perspectives of life, and we needed to have this project, this film festival, which takes all of that identity and redefine it to bring it to the film world.
Thank you, Yuli. I really like what when we were talking prior to when you're having our first conversations, and you're talking about the concept of being more than a neighborhood. It's like your approach that it's a film festival made from the people from the peripheries to the people from the peripheries as well, and not just like bringing filmmakers from outside. So I really love how you're approaching it. And probably both yours and Emiliano's background help with that, because it's your vision, right, that you're bringing to your festival. So thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Trish and Geron to speak about Poppadom Pictures and how Poppadom Pictures works with Film Oxford.
Hi, my name is Trish Cashen, and I'm involved with Poppadom Pictures, which is a local cinema club that is more by accident than design, and frankly shouldn't work, but it does. And the main reason it works, rather than it doesn't work, is the people involved with it focus on it works, not it shouldn't work. It's very much a collaboration with Film Oxford, and we frankly really couldn't run it without their support. We use their premises, we use their equipment, they help us out with admin for our licenses, and we've had a long relationship with them even before we established the cinema club. That wonderful scene is from our a party that happened in 1999 to celebrate the millennium, and that was run by the group that Poppadom Picture sits underneath, which is called the Howard Street Project. The Howard Street Project was made solely for the purpose of getting together a millennium party, getting the permissions to close the street and to bid for some funding and serve food and play music. And it was a hell of a party, and people still talk about it today, even though it was more than 20 years ago. The third slide, this is what a typical Poppadom evening looks like. We've been running since 2015, and the idea is to show a children's film, then a gap for a communal meal, which is curry we buy in from the local restaurant, which is on the same street as us, and then we show a film for adults. And that is basically what we do every month, except in December and January, when people are either too busy at parties or don't want to. Yeah, or in January, everyone's fed up with parties, and we don't do them in July and August because everybody's away on holiday. The slide we're looking at now is when we manage to get some funding, we can do less ordinary things. So this is a gang of people looking at a Q&A in a collaboration with our local theatre, the Pegasus Theatre, and the film we screened was a documentary by James Bluemill and Hassan Akkad on migrating to the UK. So when we're able to, we take advantage of opportunities to do something out of the ordinary. This is Film Oxford's showcase on YouTube. And you can see there are 3 films there. One called Howard Street, which I think was made in 2002.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was when they first moved to the premises on the corner of Howard Street and Catherine Street. And they engaged with the local community to tell the story of Howard Street. And it's quite an interesting film because a lot of the people they interviewed then had lived in their houses all their lives, or had lived in a house very similar to that, a couple of streets along, moved to Howard Street when they got married and never moved. Nowadays, Howard Street is characterized by some people who have lived here for a very long time, but also a much more mobile population, people coming in to work in the local hospitals, the university, we have students, and we have a much more mixed and diverse community. The second film about the street garden was when we all got involved together to bid for yet more funding, because that's the thing we like to do, to turn a horrible scrappy piece of land just outside Film Oxford's premises into, famously it was going to be a tree and a bench, but the idea mushroomed, and it's now a lovely garden with mosaics, benches, and we use it for community events, and it's really enhances the neighborhood. The film at the top was one that we made with funding as part of the Heritage Lottery Fund to celebrate the Queen's Jubilee last year. And the production wing of Film Oxford got a group of local people, mostly children, to learn how to make a film, how to interview people, how to tell a story, how to do the editing, how to sort out the music. And it has been a massive hit and everybody enjoyed, loved doing it. And a lot of people who were working with the kids, their parents and guardians, said what a difference it made to them to be trusted with really expensive equipment and just get on with it and make a pig. So we're all huge fans of that. And that kind of is very illustrative of the sort of collaborative relationship we have with Film Oxford. That is just before last year in May and June, we had a week-long celebration with the money we got to celebrate the Jubilee. And what we did with that was we collaborated with Film Oxford to put on a series of workshops, and it ended in, guess what, a street party, because we like doing street parties. The workshops included making some more mosaics, learning how to make a film, printmaking, zine making, making a banner for more street parties, and animation. Yes, I've got the animation one. And basically they were very well attended by local people. And then we had fun things to do in the evening, which included a cabaret of local talent, a film and discussion with another local film group, we can scoot through to a samba drumming workshop. And that was excellent and very noisy. We got one of our local samba groups to come and teach us how to do some drumming. And everything was very inclusive. The whole ethos of what we do is things should be, whenever possible, absolutely free. And you can drop in and not make a commitment. And that is kind of the success of our film nights. Nobody has to pay up front. The films are free. If you would like food, there's a small charge for the food. And everything is just come along for as much as you like. Drop in, drop out, everybody's welcome. That's just a group of local people doing things like playing the piano, stand-up comedy, and that's in Film Oxford's premises where we hold all our events. And we've turned it into a little cabaret venue for the night. This is the street party that we had last year. We had another one the previous year to celebrate being able to get out and socialize with people. But this one was rather grander because we could afford to employ people to do things like organize chalk drawings for the kids, come along and play music. And all of the bunting, that was made as part of a bunting workshop. The thing on the left-hand side is a large dinosaur model going around on a bicycle, and he's the Howard Street dinosaur. He's a T-Rex, and he's king of Howard Street. He even has a little crown which kept coming off because it kept getting caught in the bunting. And again, that was just about getting the kids in to work together, to collaborate, and to have a fun thing to do on the day. And as far as possible, everything is free, and we just try to get people working together to do things that they enjoy. That shows our street party culminated in a screening of Summer of Soul, which we projected out of doors. And that's very much the kind of film that we like to show, that shows life outside of Howard Street, that people elsewhere do things differently, and something that has a fairly broad appeal of, like, who wouldn't like a film about music and films? Paddington, I'll hand over to Geron, because it's part of the
I should say, Summer of Soul, that film was projected onto the neighbour's wall. I think you can see the silhouette of the house in the background, but that was a massive screen in our car park, in fact. So anyway, my name's Geron Swann. I'm development director here at Film Oxford. I've been at Film Oxford for 30 odd years. A very quick potted history of Film Oxford. We've been around for 35 years. We come out of a very much a sort of collective and political kind of tradition. You know, we've survived the ups and downs of public funding, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been an interesting kind of career for me, being part of this community creative arts charity. We do three things. We run a load of training courses for adults. We run a lot of community activities, of which Poppadom is one. And we also have recently developed a kind of a production trading wing to try and build a sort of a new income stream for the other work we do. But to talk particularly about our outdoor screenings, these are screenings that we've run for about 25 years now. This one is in Berry Knoll Park in Headington, near Brooks, in fact. And it's just an example of one of several we've run over that time. And what we do is we turn up with a screen and speakers and a player and projector. And we play out on a big screen to audiences that can get up to 300-400 people. And we tend to start the evening with a support program, and those tend to be films that are made by young people, and they tend to last maybe about 10-15 minutes. But then it's followed by a feature. I'm sorry to say, they tend to be the kind of the regular features, the Hollywood features that bring in an audience, but that's the kind of model that works, and that's the kind of model that we get funding for. But it's a way of getting an audience for those shorts, which are made by young people generally. All the activities, all the events are free. It's great. Sometimes, like you can see in this picture, kids come out with picnics. Sometimes they turn up in dressing gowns and pajamas, and because of the weather we have here, sometimes sleeping bags, because it does get cold. And because of our equipment, we can only actually screen films when it gets dark. So they tend to start in the summer around about 8:39 and go on till about 11. In the good old days, our local authority would give us funding for these events in their parks, and then that got cut, and to a point now where we're having to apply for funding to places like the lottery, but also we found in more recent years that councils are coming back to funding these events via the individual councillors' budget. So it's an interesting sort of full circle that the funding is kind of has run. But that's it. They're really popular events, and it's just great to engage in the community. gives people a sense of pride in their own backyard, in their own space. We often work with young people to design the marketing, the publicity, the posters, and they help put up laminated posters around the park to bring in a crowd. It's really one of our most successful activities in terms of engagement with those local audiences. And I should say the parks are mostly in the less well-off areas in Oxford, near and around the estates. So it's really serving an audience that don't have a lot of disposable income to go down to the cinema and take the family out on a night out into town. They're very popular, and hopefully we'll carry on doing these into the future.
Thank you so much. It was really interesting to learn more, and I'm hoping to attend some of your events this summer, and the Poppadom Pictures as well, that I haven't been to yet. So thank you so much. Now I would like to invite João Paca to talk about Video Rio.
So thank you everyone to having us get it together here. It's amazing to see these projects around the world, and it's all very inclusive, and we are all connected to this way of thinking that people has to come together through works of art, no matter what kind of art you're doing. Marvelous year 2020, the year everybody can forget about it. We were all stuck in our homes without any possibility to get together, and I felt like we should reject the works that we video artists in Brazil we call video artists, but I think in everywhere they call moving images. I'm not sure. The things that it's a very democratical media, so I felt like we should get together in a way of creating concentration and more engagement throughout the social media and those formats that only allows you to behavior in a very instant manner. And since we didn't have a proper administration in our government to create fundings and grantings for institutions, galleries, places to be connected and comfortable working with art, we should make an occupation throughout the streets. And I was kind of obsessed with the fact that in Brazil, it's very rare to have festivals for moving images in the streets. People don't do that. I don't know why. I mean, São Paulo, you got to see some projections there, but it's usual something more political and produced by just one team rather than a festival. So I came up with this idea of creating a map in Rio using the City Hall founding at the time, the first one they got after the pandemic, to create this event throughout a weekend, actually a week, through many different neighborhoods in Rio, downtown, South Zone, and the North Zone, which they call periphery, but I don't see them as a periphery because they have their own center. They are very well structured there. They have a living there, although they suffer without government appointments and a terrible organization that doesn't care about substantial matters like transportation, hospitals, and stuff like that. So we make this public announcement seeking for artists in Rio, not from Rio, but allocated here. And we established a group of 3 curators from our main universities. There were actually video artists too. and selected a group of 12 artists to represent the scenario we are living in. So in a week, we decided to project all the movies, the shortcuts, the films in the buildings near to the very crown places like subways or trains, shoppings, places where we had a crowd of people walking to see how they relate with that occurrence. And the first thing that came to my mind is that people were very insensitive to images because of the environment completely occupied by advertisement. Everywhere you can buy something, you can wear something, you have to use that for something. But when you put a film or a piece of art or something that has no relationship with logics or has a connection to the environment that breaks what you're doing, so then you have an invitation to something new to that situation, which means creating a conversation, producing a speech. And because of that, I think the first year of our project was a huge success, because I could see people getting not only emotional, but very attached to what was going on. Like they saw the potential of doing something with that place that they didn't see it before. One of the cases, for instance, is a woman that was really shy at the beginning. She was filming one of the facades we were occupying, and when I approached her to ask what was going on, she told me that she could never afford to go to the movies. So she was recording that to show to her granddaughter what was going on in the city, although she lives in the city too. But I mean, this shows how you or our environment is segregated. It's sort of like she doesn't belong to that place, although she lives there. So this engagement was our main lab to see infinity of perspectives that came around when you can put something like a projection of a movie, so people can see in one place a connection to talk about, to share their own perspectives. It was pretty much because of that was the case of why we have to do these festivals in open air, so everybody can be together and knows that we're not alone. We're now living a renaissance in terms of money and funding and grants in Brazil. But we passed through 4 years of total, I don't know even how to say, it was a nightmare. And now we can actually organize ourselves again. But by that time, it was almost like a relief to see that we are belonging to the same river in Rios. That we're here. And I think that video art or moving image or cinema or films are super democratic, because you can bring all forms of arts and expressions and narratives to that media that can go viral.
Thank you, João. I will share. I didn't want to interrupt you to ask you to share, but I will share here some images of your
Yeah, this was at the train station in Madureira, which is a far neighborhood from downtown. People there are, in a majority, working people who are usually very tired, because they have to face like 4 hours in traffic to go to their places, to go to their works, and the struggle is real there. And they were very insensitive to almost all the videos who shown abstracted forms of expressions, but when you realize that they were talking about heritage or showing a Black presency without suffering violence or stigmatizations, the full attention, like representative and represent matters. They really embrace what was going on, because you have to have something to share there. And these are a few posters. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much, João. It was great to learn more. I was lucky enough to be in Rio and see the last day of the festival, but I missed the projections. But I could meet some of the filmmakers, and it's really amazing to see the relevance of the festival for the community, and how could people, the opportunity of people seeing themselves represented in the films were really important, what we were just saying. So that said, João was talking a little bit about the Brazilian government and all the issues behind it, and I think Takumã, our next guest, will be able to talk about this as well. So Takumã, you speak in Portuguese, and I will translate to you afterwards. And Takumã, just will ask you to... Takumã, vou te pedir para falar devagar para eu poder ir traduzindo, tá bom? E eu vou mostrando aqui as imagens. So, yeah, I was just... Thank you.
Boa tarde a todos. Eu
Good
sou
afternoon.
Takumã.
I am Takumã.
Eu sou da terra indígena do Xingu, Mato Grosso, Brasil.
Indigenous village of Xingu, in Mato Grosso, Brazil.
No momento eu estou aqui em Londres.
At the moment I'm in London.
Eu estou muito feliz compartilhar o conhecimento do meu povo, né, através do cinema indígena. Eu sou realizador, eu sou diretor, eu sou também editor.
I'm very happy to be able to share the knowledge of my people with you all. I'm an editor, filmmaker, and I'm here in London.
Então, o trabalho desde 2010, e porque eu comecei a estudar cinema indígena junto com o ONG Vídeo nas Aldeias em 2002, porque eu não considero realmente como meu trabalho. Eu comecei realmente a considerar como meu trabalho em 2010 e 2011, né?
Okay, eu vou traduzir. Takumã, he started with, there is a project in the Amazon, used to be called village, filmmaking in the villages. And Takumã, he started with then learning about filmmaking in 2002, but he thinks that his work actually started in 2010, was a different kind of work. At the time, he was learning more about like techniques and how, yeah.
Então, meu trabalho na aldeia para a gente poder fortalecer, resgatar nossa cultura, nossa língua, rituais, essas coisas, né? Antes a gente não começava, quer dizer, quando comecei a entender a linguagem de cinema, eu não sabia, eu ia participar na mostra de cinema, as coisas, né? Porque o cinema, para a gente, é uma coisa de resgate de cultura, uma identidade do povo, onde nós podemos mostrar nosso trabalho somente para nosso povo, dentro da aldeia. Que eu vou mostrar daqui a pouco as fotos, para vocês conhecerem realmente como é que nós trabalhamos para nossa comunidade.
Okay, vou traduzir. Translation. So Takumã was talking about like he considers like his work to be a rescue of their own culture and rituals. When he started to understand the language of cinema, he would go to like cinema festivals, and he understood that was, for him, this was like a way of making films. For him, it was a way of like rescuing his culture, his identity, the identity of his people and his village.
A gente tem um coletivo de cinema, né? Eu sou um dos deles, né? E o Sylvia, você pode mostrar aí para a gente, né?
Sim,
Esse
começar
aqui sou eu, né? Eu,
Takumã and his collective.
sim,
We have a collective.
quando nós gravamos, né? Nossa cultura própria, nossa ritual, a gente tem que se transformar como dentro da ritual. Eu tenho que me pintar, eu tenho que participar ritual para poder entrar junto com o povo, né? E eu tenho que registrar exatamente o que está acontecendo dentro da aldeia. Eu me tenho que vestir como aldeia.
So he was explaining that in order to be able to, so this is his collective, but in order to be able to talk about his own culture, about the rituals, he has to be dressed, to be, you know, in the exactly, to show he has to be exactly in the same being part of it. It's not just to show it. So that's why when they film, you can see in the pictures, he's painted, he's ready for the rituals.
Então, quando nós gravamos e nossa cultura, nossa história, assim, né? O povo gosta de se ver na tela, eles gostam de se ver na tela. A gente transforma a nossa aldeia, colocamos um pano e pano branco para a gente poder projetar. Nós gravamos na aldeia. Silvia, você pode mostrar aqui uma segunda foto? E a gente, na outra lá... Não, lá no segundo, depois, não, lá em cima. Isso,
Okay.
essa
Okay.
final da tarde, o povo pede para a gente exibir filme para eles, né? Aí todo mundo senta no chão, as crianças, velhos, né? A gente não tem a sala de cinema na aldeia. A nossa sala de cinema é a aldeia. A gente vai projetar para eles. Eles gostam de se ver, eles gostam de assistir ritual. Eles não gostam de ver filme do brancos. Eles gostam de ver realmente feito pela gente dentro da aldeia. Eles gostam de se ver.
Vou explicar isso. Here you can see a film screen in the village. So Takumã was explaining that when they film the rituals, they like to watch it later. So they put a white screen, big screen. They project it to the village because they don't like to watch films by white people. They like to watch themselves in the films. So this is one of the film screenings, and it brings together everyone, young people, older people, everyone together to watch themselves in the rituals that were filmed by the collective.
Porque isso é muito importante para as crianças, né? A gente mostrar a cultura, para que, através do cinema, eles vão... a gente vai incentivando, valorizar a própria nossa cultura através disso. E por isso a gente mostra para a comunidade, para as crianças, para que eles sentir com importância de própria nossas culturas, porque audiovisual se tornou uma resgate de cultura, uma resgate de uma ferramenta muito importante dentro da nossa cultura, dentro da nossa comunidade.
So Takumã is explaining how it's important for them to value their own culture, because like audiovisual, to make films for them is a way of like rescuing their own culture.
Então, do ano passado, né, e mostra outra foto, eles se construindo. Então, a gente mandou construir primeira casa de cinema na aldeia, onde nós vamos exibir nossos filmes. Porque antes a gente colocava centro da aldeia mesmo, na frente de uma casa, e do ano passado, através do primeiro festival de cinema e cultura indígena, eu criei isso, porque a gente não tem oportunidade de a gente participar de festivais, né? Como festivais no Brasil. A gente não tem, a gente tem que criar o nosso festival no Brasil. Aí eu criei isso, né? A primeiro festival de cinema indígena, para que nós podemos exibir nossos filmes, porque a gente não temos oportunidade de a gente exibir nossos filmes em outros lugares. Eu realmente criei essa porque muitos realizadores indígenas que não têm oportunidade de exibir seus filmes. Aí eu acabei criando como se fosse o primeiro festival de cinema indígena. Através disso, criamos uma casa de cinema na aldeia.
Okay, so let me explain. So this, in the picture, you are able to see, so after doing the film screenings, as you could see in the previous picture, Takumã thought there was necessary to build their own place for culture. It's kind of like their cultural center in the village. So they built this beautiful structure to show films in the village. And he was also talking about the first festival of indigenous film and culture that he created, that was last year in Brasília. And this is all in conjunction with what's happening in the villages as well at the same time. So this cultural center that they are building.
Segunda foto. Então, depois da construção, a gente fez uma exibições, vários filmes na aldeia, né? Todo mundo lá assistindo, né? A gente colocou uma tela grande, som, para que todo mundo assistir filme dos outros realizadores indígenas. Não é somente nossos filmes. A gente leva filmes dos outros realizadores indígenas para que a gente pode conhecer também a cultura, né? A luta dos outros povos indígenas através do cinema, porque é importante essa conexão, essa rede que criamos com realizadores, né, com comunicadores indígenas, onde nós podemos fazer intercâmbio cultural através do cinema. A gente troca nossos filmes entre a gente no Brasil.
So Takumã was explaining, here you can see a screening. There is not only films made in their own village, but other indigenous filmmakers as well. So they can do an cultural interchange. They can learn about each other's realities and culture as well, because in the Amazon we have many different villages with different cultural aspects. So they do it in the village to see the films from other filmmakers as well, and that's really important to him.
Vai lá no outro fotos, né? Esses são os coletivos, né? Coletivo de audiovisuais que trabalha com a gente.
The other filmmakers in the Kuikuro.
Depois disso, né? A gente exibe, né? Exibindo as crianças gostam de mesmo ver lá, né?
The children love to watch films
antes,
there.
Né, a gente vai gravando, né? Sobre vários tipos que a gente tem, sobre as plantas que nós plantamos da mandioca. Depois a gente vai falar com uma mulher também, para que eles podem compartilhar também com a gente, né, sobre as medicinas tradicionais. A gente conta nossas histórias, né, dentro da nossa aldeia. Aí depois disso, editamos, exibimos, para que eles possam ver o resultado do nosso trabalho dentro das aldeias. Assim, eles vão valorizando próprio nosso trabalho também, porque estamos aqui, eu falo para eles, minha comunidade, estamos aqui para guardar a cultura, nossas histórias. Isso vai servir para geração em geração, porque sabendo que nossa cultura realmente é uma coisa muito ameaçado, né? A cultura não indígena entrando cada vez mais. A gente precisa documentar isso antes de seja tarde, né? A gente precisa, por isso que a gente está trabalhando para que a gente pode resgatar nossa cultura através do audiovisual.
Ok. So Takumã is talking about like here you can see he was showing they were interviewing someone to talk about the plants and cassava, that they plant cassava in the villages. In the next picture, they are interviewing a woman who is in charge of like she's talking about the traditional medicine and herbs in the villages. So this is all to tell like their own stories, their viewings, to bring value to their own culture, because they are constantly threatened by other cultures. So this is the importance of like keeping their own culture, not only for them and the next generations, but also so everyone can be aware of like the indigenous culture through films. Como acho que a gente está ficando pouco sem tempo, we are like a few minutes from like ending, but I would like to invite everyone, because Takumã is in London for another film festival, which he's also the curator, falando que você é o curador, né? Dos curadores do próximo festival. Thank you so much, Takumã. Obrigada. And I don't know, maybe you have time for a question from the audience, or maybe between each other, you also have questions, because there's so many amazing projects. It's so good to be here and hear from all of you. So there is a question from Daniela. She's asking, how important is that connection between production and exhibition that Takumã talks about for the others in the panel? So Daniela says, I remember reading about an amazing Argentinian project called Cine con Vecinos, it's like cinema with neighbors, which made the same claims, a black box for participatory cinema, movie making with neighbors in Saladino, Argentina, by Arne Schneider.
In a personal matter, I am a film producer who found out how important exhibition was for films. In the first place, what I wanted to do was films. I just wanted to do films, and in the way I realized how important was exhibition, because this is the reason why we make movies for that exact moment where the films are going to be presented, connected, and exhibited to the audience. To the audiences, I think that is the most important moment for a film. There is where its real life begins, and that is why, after understanding this, exhibition became like one of the most important objectives. This moment, provoking these moments where people can find with films, where those encounters may happen, and that is we from the festival, from Festival, we want to do to provoke those encounters, because I have been hearing all of these amazing projects, and I couldn't stop thinking that we also how important it is that we start to see films, do films, and to hear, to find other voices, other perspectives, and that narratives from the different cultures and people around the world maybe narrated by ourselves from those territories, from those communities that have been out of the film industry for so long. And with all this thing that is happening, I couldn't stop thinking about this thing of the Little Mermaid movie and all this thing about how important is that representation in film. But we also need not only that Disney comes and gives us a new Little Mermaid. We need the communities that these people who have been always outside the film industry starts to be in the center. And I loved what Joel said about these populations which are not from the periphery. FESIVA has also started to not talk about periphery, but about new centers, because there always have been the people has always existed there, and they have a center, and culture and film is happening in those places, and not only because we are not part of the hegemonic cultures. It doesn't mean that we are not there and that we are not making films which need to be in the global view. And that's it.
Yeah, the mainstream, not on so everyone can be aware and see it, because that's, as you said, right, Yuli, it's you make films because you want to show them as well, to share. And I think something that everyone was talking about here somehow, like, is the importance of representation and community, and how, yeah, sharing with our own communities, but also outside our communities. Thank you everyone so much, in special the speakers, for sharing your experience. And yeah, I hope you keep in contact, connect with each other. If you signed up to the Eventbrite, you should have like links for all the projects. Get in contact with each other, please, including the attendees, not only the speakers. And if you want me to connect with each other, I'm here as well. Please get in contact. Let's continue the conversations. Thank you so much, everyone.